Hey guys, you might notice that my video today has a little bit of a different format to regular ones because one of the girls I rent out a room to in my house got COVID, and I found myself a refugee at my parents' place without a razor as I try to escape getting sick again. So the video that I'm making today is about something that I am very passionate about, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. It's a big one. So look, as someone who's worked as a dating coach for 13 years and is moving more and more into the men's self-development sphere, I'm keenly aware that there is a problem brewing for men. There is an issue with male loneliness going through the roof, male suicide, male education rates. More and more men are feeling not heard, not accepted, like no one really gives a crap. And it's a really big problem. And I'm seeing, if I look in my YouTube comments, that there is more of a call to arms, more a call to make a change in the world than I've ever seen before. And I agree, a change needs to happen. We need to stand up and make a fight to make the world a better place for guys. But I don't think we need to fight in the way and stand up and make a call that you guys think needs to happen. And that's what I want to talk about today, the way that we should make the world better for us guys. You see, I'm also aware that life isn't exactly roses for women either. There is a serious problem with sexual and domestic assault on women. I would have to say that more women that I know than not have had some form of sexual assault as children, which I find deeply disturbing that is such a common thing. I know many women in the tech sphere, and I know firsthand just how easily they get dismissed by their male counterparts. I know that there are a whole bunch of problems here for women as well. And no, I'm not about to say, so you see fellas, women do have it worse after all. In fact, not only do I not want to say that, I think saying that would be going about this whole thing completely wrongly. You see, I don't think that violations against human rights are ever meant to be some sort of universal dick measuring contest. And I think to some degree that's largely what it has become. I know a lot of feminists who are walking around seeing how much women are suffering. In fact, they only focus on the way in which women in the world suffer. And then they sit there and they think, because women are suffering so much, clearly men have it better. But then I also know a bunch of men who are walking around, often men's rights activists, who say, because I'm focused so much on how much men suffer, and I can see how much suffering there is for men in the world, clearly women must have it better. But gender suffering isn't a zero-sum game. Both men and women can suffer greatly without the other being the beneficiary. And sure, there are men in the world who are benefiting from the system as it is at present, absolutely. And there are women who are benefiting from the system as it is at present. I know examples, clear examples, many examples of both. But I think that both men and women, on average, are suffering a lot more than they should be. I believe for both genders, life could be a lot better. But this situation isn't going to change unless we start pulling our fingers out of our asses and doing things the right way. See, let me explain. We have to stop pointing at each other as though we are the enemy. So for example, if we think about a woman who has been the victim of domestic abuse. Let's say that her husband has come home drunk and beaten her. That woman has every right to be upset. She has been victimized and she doesn't deserve it. She has every right to want to live in a society that will protect her from this type of abuse happening again in the future. But what's easy to do is then look at the man and say, he's just a bad seed. He's an evil man. He's done a bad thing. But the world is never that black and white, right? We know that man, okay, he has clearly got anger issues, right? He drinks regularly. That suggests emotional regulation issues, right? He's beating his wife, which strongly suggests control issues. He feels a lack of control in certain areas of his life. This man himself was likely the victim of other men and women in his life growing up. That doesn't mean that we forgive the crimes. It means that it's a perpetual victim cycle. It's not a man being a bad seed. Himself has been a victim as well. The same thing happens. Men walk around and they feel like, oh, I've dated women who have emotionally abused me and emotionally abandoned me. That makes them just simply a bad seed. But that was never the case. Those same women themselves were victims by other men and women in their own lives that made them the way that they are today. Most of you watching have been hurt by women in the past, and any women watching this, I'm sure, have been hurt by men in the past, but we have to stop using each other as an easy scapegoat option. I have lost almost both male and female friends in arguments where I've tried to convince them that their gender, or the opposite gender to whatever they are, does not necessarily have it better. I never try to say that they have it worse, but that it's not immediately obvious that both genders suffer. And that is such a difficult pill for many of us to swallow, because what we need someone to be the enemy. We can't just be fellow victims, because that makes us feel uneasy, right? It's easy if we just say women are entitled, it's their fault. It's easy if we say men are just too violent and aggressive and they're control freaks. It gives us an easy out, but that's not the solution. When we point fingers, we don't fix the problem. Imagine that you're in a relationship with a woman. I know many of you have been. And imagine that you're in the middle of a fight with her, and she is mad at you because you have not taken out the trash or fixed that squeaky door when you promised her that you would. Meanwhile, you're mad at her because you work far longer hours than her, you make a lot more money, which she benefits from, and yet she still gets on your back like you're not good enough. Like, as exhausted as you are, you still have to do all this other work on top of it before you are valid in her eyes. Now, what most couples do is they sit there and they finger point. You're the bad person in all this. I'm the one who's been wronged. I'm the one who's been hurt. And what happens in most of those relationships is you have a fight, you say things that you don't really mean, you hurt each other, and eventually you break up. Not from this fight, but one of the many fights you have where all you can do is see the other person as the bad one. This is not how healthy relationship dynamics of any kind are meant to work. Instead, it only takes either party to sit there and just genuinely, for a second, try to hear the other person's pain, because they have pain as well. And what happens when you start to do that, when either gender does that, when either party in a relationship does that, you can actually find a constructive solution to the problem, because you both have the space to actually understand what's going on, right? In this case, for her, it's not about the door, it's not about the rubbish, it's about the fact that she wants to trust that you'll do what you say you'll do. Because when you do that, when her man does that, she feels safety, right? And for you as a man, you need to trust that your woman appreciates all the hard work you do put in. Right? That's really important for a man, because that gives us our sense of self and our sense of value in a relationship. And both parties have every right to feel these things, but in these fights, their stuff gets lost. And so this same logic should be applying to the genders. Okay, so this is the uprising that I want. I don't know if it's the uprising we can have, but I think it's the only way that we're really going to make the world a better place. Men and women, both, need to start standing up en masse and saying to their own gender, not the other gender, their own gender. And we need to start saying the other one is not the enemy. They are not there on this planet just to victimize us. They are suffering along with us. And if we don't understand each other, we're going to continue to fight. You know how it's become uncool to stand up in polite company and say, make fun of fat people or make jokes about trans or gay people? I think it needs to be just as uncool to make the other gender into the enemy. I think that in polite company, we need to be booing and hissing terms like toxic masculinity and terms like the patriarchy, right? And that same polite company needs to boo and hiss terms like hypergamy and terms like all women are like that, right? None of this should ever be okay, because we are constantly vilifying the other gender. And I know this would be a really hard thing to accomplish, but if more of us would just refuse to play the role of a victim and refuse to see the other gender as the enemy, and call out people around us for doing it, we could reach a point where we stop fighting each other. I mean, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of trying to explain to women that men aren't the enemy. And I'm sick of trying to explain to men that women aren't the enemy. Because yeah, until we stop seeing that, we're going to constantly have this fight of trying to validate our own wants and needs to each other and never feeling heard. So guys, that's the end of my rant. It's a big one. It's something that I'm feeling very passionate about, something that I guess I'm actively working on in my own life quite a lot at the moment. So I'd love to hear about your thoughts on this in the comments below. You may agree, you may disagree, you may think it's a pipe dream, but let me know what you think. I'm eager to have a bit of a discussion about it. And again, I hope you enjoy my surroundings. It's something a little bit different, and hopefully next time I'll be back to my regular desk. As always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Take care.